In this video, let's talk about making a brush in Alibre. Now, I've already done one to demonstrate version 27, but I thought I should get a lot more creative and have a circular pattern on the bristles rather than kind of a squarish one. I think it looks a lot more realistic. It was more efficient to model because I didn't have to delete a bunch of bodies, and I think it turned out great. So I'm excited to go through this fun workflow of making a brush with you today. Let's start off by sketching on the XY plane. I'll make a vertical line. And then a horizontal. We'll grab a dimension. And we'll go with 1 in one direction and 2 in another direction. I'll go with an elliptical arc. I don't draw these as much as I should because they are really cool. And yep, I drew my elliptical arc, and now we'll revolve. And of course, I'll go to my view here and turn on my references. And I'll select there and OK. From here, let's go on the XY plane and start a sketch. I'll make a rectangle. I'll add a dimension from the origin to this side, and we're going to say 0.04. We'll give this rectangle a width of the same, 0.04. We'll give this a vertical dimension, and this is to make sure that my rectangle always stays below my solid. And we'll give this line a dimension to make sure it always stays above my solid. I'll deactivate, and now we're going to go to our helix option. But I don't actually want to make a helix. I would rather make a spiral. For revolutions, I'll give this 20 revolutions. We'll give this a pitch of 0.25. We'll select our axis as the y-axis here. And there we've made a pretty good spiral pattern. Except I think I'll change my pitch to 0.125, as I think that would be better for the kind of bristles that we want. So we'll say OK to that. Now let's actually scale this, because I would like this to be more of an elliptical pattern than a straight circular one. So we'll go to Scale Mirror Part. We'll make sure that this is non-uniform and only scale the Z to a scale of 1.5. And that gives us a nice aspect ratio of what our comb should look like. From here, I actually want a surface. So I'm going to select my bottom face. We're going to say surfaces and delete face. And what we do is we trim this right down to a surface. So this is infinitely thin. This, what we're looking at now, is no different than a plane or an axis or anything like that. We are only using it for reference and nothing else. So we've generated this reference surface, and I particularly am interested in this spiral pattern, because I think I want my bristles to follow that pattern of this spiral. So next, let's make the body of the brush in a much similar fashion. For convenience, I can hide the view of my surface if I wish. I'll go back onto my XY plane and to some degree redo what I've already done. We'll create a sketch. I'll also, in my view, head over to View and make sure that my sketches are activated, because now all I have to do in my active sketch is to project a sketch, and I'll select sketch 1 with maintained association. From here, revolve, and of course we'll choose the y-axis, and then simply scale our part once more. Non-uniform with a scale factor of 1.5. So back to kind of where we started. Now I'll show my surface. Before I do that, I'll go on my XY plane and make a quick sketch. I'll sketch right up my y-axis. I'll make sure that I have the vertical constraint here as well. I'll select an arc. Make sure that my arc is coincident on this line, and I might as well make sure that this line is vertical with my origin while I'm at it. Move this over here to look a little bit more like a brush bristle. And we'll give this dimensions. Maybe 0.03 here. 1. 0.1, that might be a bit big. 0.05, we'll go with that and see how it goes. Oh, one is looking kind of tall here. Let's go with 0.6. See how that turns out. Make this a bit narrower, 0.02. To activate the sketch, we'll do a revolve around this axis. I'll go ahead and show my surface now, and then we can choose paths for this to be patterned on. We'll go with path pattern, and we'll choose our path objects here. And I'm just going to keep on choosing path objects to add on to my surface. You'll notice the bristles lean more and more outwards the further out they go. I think that's a great feature of the path pattern and exactly what I intended for a brush like this. And maybe I'll quit the path pattern just one edge before. And now I can play with what kind of numbers that I'd like to have. Maybe I'll go with 125. Maybe a straight 100. Let's try 100 bristles, see what that looks like. That looks good, but they're a little bit sporadically spaced, so let's increase that. 150. That's looking better, still a bit sporadic. If I go with 125, looks like we developed kind of a cool pattern though. So let's go with 250. Let's double that and see what that looks like. Yep. We get a really cool pattern there. So 125 to 250, you get a pretty cool pattern that's not strictly circular. That's a lot of fun. So I'm liking 250. We're going to say OK to that. And there's our brush so far. And hide the surface. And I think we are looking pretty good. So I'm going to go with delete face here. And we got rid of that little body contact. I think everything else looks like a very nice pattern. Looks like we have no failures. So we'll close that, and looks like our pattern went well. Let's now just work on the simple handle of the brush, and probably similarly to how we did the video before. Make an ellipse. We'll choose a distance here, and I'll go with something like 0.25, and I'll do the same here. We'll go with an arc here, and an arc here, and we'll go with tangent, tangent. We'll go with vertical. And then we'll give this a dimension of 7. Here, I think 1 here. Maybe a dimension of 8. And then yes, we want our arc center to be vertical. Lastly, mirror here, here, about the axis, and then trim. And then I think I want to adjust some dimensions here. Let's give this 4.5. We'll give this 1.5, and I think that looks a little bit more like how airbrush should look. Maybe 1.25. I like that a lot. We'll give a vertical dimension from here to here, and that should fully constrain us, so I'll deactivate. And now we're here, back to our brush, and I'm going to say extrude. There's our sketch. We're going distance of 1. We'll say OK. And then for fillets, I'll select this edge. We're going to fillet that 0.5 as well as this. Great. Now I might look at this and say, well, that's too domed. And so I'll go ahead and edit that, right? First off, if we go back through the tree, maybe I'll make this 0.75. Then we'll head on down to this revolution. We'll edit that, and in fact I'll import or project this edge in with maintained association. Maybe I'll give that a distance of negative 0.05, even negative 0.01, so it sits just below the surface. Deactivate that, and I did not import that as a reference figure, so we'll convert this to a reference figure. Alright, so we'll get rid of that. You might say, oh, I like this pattern better, right? It's less domed. Maybe someone would say, oh, it's my preference for it to be a little bit more flat. So we always can use our equation editor. I'll click the plus sign here and we'll add in base height, and I give it a very simple equation of a distance of 0.5. Apply that. So there's our base height. I'll check that as a favorite. So if I want to save myself a little bit of adjusting, I can go back to my sketch 1, edit that. We'll click our f of x and just set this, look for the checkbox here. There it is. All right, we'll give it a height, the base height. And then generate to last feature. So that makes it real easy. There's our very flat profile of 0.5. So I can give this a base height edit. Simply open up my equation editor, change my base height to something like 1, and then we can see the difference pretty much instantly. So there we are at a height of 1. You can see how domed out it is. So it's pretty cool to be able to adjust things that easily with one dimension and have it all update. One of the beauties of working in parametrics, I suppose. Thank you so much for watching. If this was helpful, please subscribe to the Alibre channel. We'll see you in the next video.